This is WordPress basic training. And don't worry, I'm not going to make you do any push-ups. We're just going to learn about WordPress today. Our agenda today, we'll have an introduction, talk about WordPress dashboard, pages and posts, images, menus, widgets, users, touch on ADA compliance, although that could be a whole seminar in itself, but I'll give you the basics, some info about privacy, keeping your website updated, and then we'll give you some more resources at the end and answer some more questions. We are The Digital. We're a full service web design and digital marketing agency here in Raleigh, North Carolina. We were established in 2004, so we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary in April. We are Google partners and HubSpot partners. We're the highest rated agency in our area in Google, both in volume and in score. Our specialty is lead generation. So we build high performing websites that generate income so that our clients can grow their businesses and beat their competition. I'm Carrie Roseman. I'm VP of Operations here at The Digital. I've been working with WordPress for 13 years. I started at The Digital 10 years ago as a project manager. I've also managed the support department, production department, and now I run the company and support our sales, marketing, and production teams. I also have some front-end development and design experience, so hopefully I can relate to any questions that you have. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and you can also email me directly. So we're going to start off with the WordPress dashboard. Usually, to log into most WordPress sites, you just add /wp-admin to the end, and that will take you to the login screen. So this is what we call the dashboard. This is the back of the website. If I open this in another tab, this is what we considered the front of the website. So this is what the public can see. This is the back or the dashboard. Most everything that you need is in the left sidebar. So we can see posts, pages, appearance. This is where our menus and widgets are. We've got forms. So pretty much everything you need is on the left. So now we're going to talk about pages. So how to edit an existing page. So if I go back into our dashboard and go to pages, and let's click on the page, for example. So this theme is using Gutenberg blocks. It's WordPress's own version of a page builder, I guess you could say. We've built custom Gutenberg blocks, and we prefer doing it this way because when you add a page builder such as Divi or Elementor, it adds a whole lot of other code to the website that slows the website down. It basically gives you everything in the kitchen sink. Whereas if you use the Gutenberg blocks and just make custom ones for what you actually need, it keeps the website faster. So if you're working on a WordPress site, your interface might look a little different because we're using custom blocks. But in general, each one of these sections is a block. Let's go to the contact page. How about that? Okay, so let's say I wanted to add a link somewhere. And again, it depends on your theme, but if I were going to add just a block of plain text, let's say here, this is a link. You see down here at the bottom, I just added some text. I can just highlight it and hit the what looks like a chain link here. And then of course it's over here. And then I can type the link. So say I wanted to point to this page. And then I'm going to hit edit. I wish I could, can't see what I'm doing. If we're pointing the user to another website, then we always want to click open in a new tab because we don't want to send people away from your website. And so unfortunately, you can't really see all of it, but I would click open in new tab. If we are adding a link to another page on our website, then we wouldn't do that because we just want them to continue navigating our site. Let's do this page. Notice there's also multiple ways to get into a page. So before I was in the dashboard and I went to the page by going to pages, and then I could see all the pages, and yours might look more like this. I can see all the pages. You can also navigate to the page you want to edit, and then you'll see down here on the bottom, edit page. You can go straight into that page. If I want to add an image, I'm going to hit the plus sign to add a block and type image. And there we go. We can add an image. Again, this is going to look very different depending on your theme and the different block settings. You might have a block that has text on the left, image on the right. But in general, this is just adding an image with the default Gutenberg block. I'm going to click upload and upload one from my computer, or I can go to media library and pick one that's already in the library. So one thing I want to mention, whenever you're adding images, make sure that you add alt text, because that is what screen readers will read out if someone is blind and navigating your site with the screen reader, it will actually read out whatever you put in the alt text so they know what's in that picture. And we'll go more into accessibility in a minute. But I would add alt text here, also title text. Both of these, it would be great if you can put a keyword in there, but for the alt text, keep in mind, this is really, it benefits SEO, but it's really for people with screen readers. So with the picture of a bottle, I wouldn't put web design Raleigh, because that's not what the picture is. I would put, green bottle floating in water or something like that. Okay, to create a new page, some things to consider is, let's see, I'm going to go back to the dashboard, go to pages. So I'm already there, and then add new page. So we need to add a page title, a slug, which is the URL of that page. Some other things are the headings, and let's start with that. So the page title, let's say web design services. Maybe that's our page title. Now notice over here in the URL, it will automatically pick up whatever I put in the title. So web design services. If you want to change that though, you can change it here. Okay. Now, when you're building out the content on a page, we want to use the correct hierarchy. So you'll have one H1 per page, and H1 is a heading. It's the most important heading on the page. It summarizes what the page is about. And then you'll break your content into different sections, and each main topic would be an H2. And then if you have a subtopic, you can do an H3. But just keep in mind that these headings are meant to have a hierarchy, and they're not just used for styling. Like if H1 is the biggest and H2 is the next biggest and H3 is, the next size down. If you just want to manipulate the size, but it's not truly a heading in the context of the content, then use CSS or use a styling versus using your headings. So we have a whole SEO basics training too, where we'll talk more about what would be an appropriate heading and how to do keyword research and things like that. But right now I'm just showing you building the page. So I can just start typing in Gutenberg. So if I wanted this to be web design services in Raleigh, maybe as my H1, I can just highlight this and click heading, and then I can make it an H1. And then say I have some other content here. I have a little, maybe this is an intro, and then I'm going to go into my next topic. Let's say it's, I don't know, sitemap planning. So I can highlight this, hit this heading, and make it an H2. Now, if you're using Gutenberg and you click add block, you can see the most recent blocks that you've used over here, or you can browse all and you'll see them all over here. And you can just pull these in. It's a drag and drop interface. So let's say I wanted to add an accordion here. I can just drag it and it puts the block there. We also want to, let's see, I'm going to save this as a draft, go back to page. Now, I'd recommend having some kind of SEO plugin on your WordPress website. We like Yoast and Zoom. So on this site, we have rank math, and I can see those settings over here. So this is where I would set the title tag and meta description. The title tag is what you see at the top of the page. So for instance, if we go to thedigital.com, the title tag of this page is Raleigh Web Design Agency, SEO and Web Development. That's the title tag. The meta description is what you'll see in search results, and you'll also see the title tag in search results. So if I just type the digital, and sometimes, by the way, Google will put a different title tag. So this just says the digital, but the meta description is here. So if you set it purposefully, with a plugin, you're more likely to have that show as the meta description, but sometimes Google will put what they want there anyway, just so you know that could possibly happen. And then you can make the page, you can save the page as a draft, or you can publish it. Right now I've just saved as draft. Let me get out of here, page. Okay, so here, visibility, there's public and private, and there's publish immediately, or you can up here save as draft. So we typically save as draft. We don't really use private very much. If we're working on a new page, we'll save it as a draft, and then when it's fully optimized, we'll go ahead and publish it. Also, we like this nested pages plugin and also CMS tree view. So the default way to see the pages, this is what you probably see when you go to pages, but there's a plugin that kind of cleans it up for you, and then you can drag these pages in different order if you want, and you can expand and collapse the parent pages and the child pages. So that's kind of nice to have. And then you can always switch back to default if you want to see all the details. We do have some more information. If you check out our blog, key website pages every small business needs, and Shai will put that in the chat for you if you're interested in learning more. Okay, moving on to posts. So posts there's posts and there's pages. In WordPress, technically they're all posts anyway. Like as far as development, as far as the code goes, they're all posts. But WordPress, started as a blogging engine. And so every WordPress site or theme comes with the blog feature built in. And that's what that post is, that post type called post is made for your blog. So pages are the static pages like about, contact, your service pages maybe, whereas posts are made to have categories and tags, and it works like a chronological feed. So if you keep adding posts on your main blog page, they'll come in chronologically unless your theme is set differently. And if you categorize and tag your posts, you'll also have archive pages or category pages. So if you categorize your pages and someone clicks on the category, it can show a page with just those categories posts. So it's really nice. It's already worked into WordPress. One thing when you're adding a post, make sure you add a featured image, because if your posts are coming into a category page or the main page, usually it displays the featured image, and it might show the title and a brief, an excerpt and a link too. But that featured image, you want to be the right aspect ratio. Depending on your theme, it might be square, it might be a rectangle. Also, the featured image is usually what is shared. If someone shares your post to Facebook or Twitter or anywhere else, it will pull in that featured image. So you want to, before you post your post, make sure you have a nice featured image to go with it. And we have more information about what a blog is and how it works in the link here that Shai will share with you. Okay, moving on to image optimization. We get this question a lot from our clients and people using WordPress for the first time. How do I make my images optimized for the web? So these are our recommendations. We like to use WebP as the file type instead of JPEG or PNG because it loads the fastest. We recommend for the file size, 100 KB kilobytes for most photos. If we have a very large hero image, we might have to get it down to like 500K, but we definitely don't want to be uploading 1 megabyte, 10 megabyte images. It will bring your website to a screeching halt. So take the time to take your images and make them the file size smaller before you upload the website. In a minute, I'm going to share some plugin image optimization plugins, but honestly, if you upload a 5 meg file, a plugin might get it down to 2 meg, but that's still not going to help you. So optimize it first and then let the plugins optimize it more. Ideal image dimensions. So we're talking about the actual file size first. Now we're talking about the actual shape and dimensions of the photo. So keep in mind that 4K screens can be 3840 pixels wide, 2160 tall, and HD screens are typically 1920 pixels wide. So keep that in mind. If you're uploading an image that is full width on your screen, I typically would upload at least 2000 pixels. We might want to bump that up to 4000 now that there's all these 4K high def screens. I mean, just 4K screens. If you're putting images within the content, then I typically think in terms of like half the size of the screen. So if we're thinking a screen is typically 2000 pixels wide for most HD, then half of that's 1000. So I might upload like images that are going to be like a featured image in a blog or just images within the content. They probably don't need to be more than 1000 pixels wide unless you're catering to 4K screens, and then maybe 2000. Also keep your aspect ratio in mind. So if your blog featured images are all square, then make sure you're uploading square images, because depending on your theme settings, WordPress may try to size it for you, but it's almost never the way you intended. So it's better to size that photo before you upload it. In other words, if say you have a slideshow at the top and it's landscape oriented. If you try to upload a portrait size photo, it's going to stretch it way out and not be what you intended. So keep that in mind when you're picking out photos for your website, the orientation that will work in the space you're using. Another thing to consider is naming and alt text of your photo. So you have your photo, you're about to save it in the right format and the right dimensions. Don't forget to optimize the name of it too. So we don't want to upload photos that are called image 1234556.jpg. You want to name your photos with SEO optimized keywords because it does help. And also keep in mind that images can come up in Google search as well. So I'm sorry, Google image search. So your images alone have an opportunity to show up in search results if someone is on the images tab in Google. Also add alt text to every single image on your website. It's good for SEO and ADA compliance. In fact, it's required for ADA compliance. So again, the alt text is describing what the picture is, but your file name or your image name when you save it can be anything. So I would put some keywords in there. And then lastly, the image optimization plugin that we use on most of our sites is Short Pixel. And there is a free and paid plan. I think the free plan covers up to maybe 1000 images. If Melissa's on the call, she can correct me if I'm wrong. But then there's also a paid plan. If you have a lot of images on your site, it can do a lot more. And it will actually save your images on another server, optimize them, send them back. And if you would like to learn more about image optimization, we have a blog, 5 SEO tips for image optimization, all about menus. So how to add and update menu items. So we're going to go to appearance, menus, click and drag, and I'm going to switch now so I can demonstrate this. Okay, so back to our demo site. We go to appearance on the left and then go down to menus. So right now I am on the primary menu. Notice you might have multiple types of menus in your theme, but in the primary menu, we can see this is one of the parent pages that you see in the nav at the top, the blocks. And then these are all sub pages. I can click and drag these around. And if I can add another one, say I wanted to add this Jumbotron, you can pick from over here. There's most recent, view all. So if I want to pick another one to add to the menu, I just click it, add to menu, and it puts it at the very bottom. So then you have to go to the very bottom and then drag it where you want it. Okay. Now there are some options within the menu item. So if you click the arrow, you can change the navigation label. So say the page title is Web Design Services in Raleigh, and you don't want that long title in your nav, in your menu at the top. You can change it to just web design or whatever you want it to be in the label. You can also, if you are pointing them to another site, like say you're a doctor's office and your billing portal is somewhere else, and you want to put pay your bill in the main nav, you can put pay your bill as the label. Well, actually, you're going to add a custom link in that case. So you'd add the custom link and pay your bill, and then open in new tab where it says here, open link in new tab. That's again, so it will open another tab with the payment, but your website will still be up. That session will still be going, so you won't lose them. If you're creating a new menu, again, it depends on your theme, but if your theme has, say, a sidebar menu, a footer menu, a mobile menu, yada, yada, you will see them all in here when I went to manage locations. And then if I wanted to create a new menu, let's see, new locations. Oh, it was in the other screen. There's a link up here. They change things all the time. Create a new menu. You could click it here, and then you would decide where you want it to show up. So any of these that were not assigned yet, I could use. So I think that is enough about menu. Oh, one more thing about menus. If you have a e-commerce site and you're not seeing your product categories or tags or other things over here, click on screen options and you can find them up here. So actually there's a couple other things you can add: the title attribute, link target, but pages, posts, custom links, categories, tags. We don't use tags, so we keep it hidden, but you can add it if you wanted to. And if this was an e-commerce site, you would also see product categories, maybe a couple other things. So screen options, don't forget that is there. Okay, moving on to widgets. What are widgets? A widget is a modular piece of content that you can put in different places. So it might be an address or a little calendar that you want to put in a sidebar or a side menu. It can add special functionality. And again, it's part of the theme. So when you install WordPress, you get the default WordPress theme that they provide to everybody. It's probably 2024 right now. But if you buy a theme, it will come with its own library of widgets. We don't use widgets too much in our themes. We prefer to do custom blocks and theme settings. So for our theme, we have all of our theme settings and things over here. But if you had widgets, you'd go to Appearance, Widget, and oh, we do have one. We've got the blog sidebar. If we wanted to add something like a block or something to the blog sidebar, we could do it here. Right now, we're just listing subcategories. There's also a page sidebar. But basically, if you look all over your site, if you're trying to update something and you can't find it anywhere in the settings and the customizer on the page, it might be a widget. So go to Appearance, Widgets, and see what is in here, and you might find it there. And we have more about WordPress widgets in the link below. Moving on to users. So what is a user? I'm talking about a WordPress user, not your hosting login, not your email login. This is to get into the WordPress dashboard. So it's not related to your hosting or control panel. To add a user, you just go to users in that left sidebar, add new, choose a role and a strong password. So what that looks like, we go to users. Here's all the users. If I want to add new, I just click up here, add new. And then for username, we typically use an email address because that is unique and easy to remember. And then you can also put your email here, but your username can be whatever you want it to be. First name, last name, and then password. Please, 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 if you get nothing else from this, you use a strong password on WordPress because that is how hackers try to get into your site. They will try to brute force. They'll try every password that a machine can generate. So either use the strong password it provides or create one, and it will measure it for you as you're entering it. And then the role. So a lot of people ask us about the roles. I've got them listed here. So an administrator has access to everything, all the settings, plugins, settings, content, everything. An editor can publish and manage the posts, including posts of others. So if you have someone that's going to work on the website with you and say they're going to do blog content for you, but you don't want them messing with the plugins and the settings, you can give them editor. Author can publish and manage only their own posts. contributor can manage or can write and manage their own posts, but not publish them. So that forces an admin to have to, or an editor to review them and publish them for the contributor. And a subscriber is just someone who can manage their own profile. And then important thing, if you need to delete a user, we have had clients do this in the past. If you delete a user, it will ask you to, do you want to reassign their posts? Yes, we definitely want to reassign their posts, or it might say content. So any page or post that that user has created in the past, it's attached to them. And if you delete them, it will delete all of their content. But you have the option to pick someone else to associate those posts with. So if you pick someone else that you know isn't going anywhere, then it will keep the content, and the new user will be the one you assign it to will be the owner of that content. So please don't delete all your content if you delete a user. And there's a link to learn more. So ADA compliance. Like I said, we could talk all day about ADA compliance. I'm just going to touch on the importance of it and some things to consider. So what is ADA compliance? According to the W3C, web accessibility means that websites, tools, and technologies designed and developed so that people with disabilities can use them. In other words, a website is considered a public accommodation, and therefore, a public accommodation. Therefore, we have to make sure that everyone can access it. More specifically, so people can perceive, understand, navigate, and interact with the web or your website. Some things to consider. It applies to all disabilities that can affect access to your website. So things like visual, which is probably the more obvious one, but not just completely blind individuals, but also color blindness, low vision, and some ways to make your site more accessible to those with visual disabilities is to consider color contrast. So we don't want dark text on top of a dark background. We want the text and the background to have a high color contrast so you can read it. Font sizes need to be large enough, line spacing in between the text, and then some more advanced things are ARIA labels, not tables, sorry, ARIA labels, which is more advanced, but just know that they exist. And then alt tags on every single image. Like I said, if someone's looking at an image with a screen reader, it will read it out to them, whatever you have in the alt text. Okay, we also need to consider physical limitations. So some people may not be able to use a mouse, so the website needs to be navigable using only a keyboard. So things like heading hierarchy that I was talking about earlier, we want one H1, an H2, maybe an H3 if there's a subtopic of the H2, and then go back to H2, H3, H4. It's like a college outline, like a term paper outline. We don't want random H5 and then H1 and then H3. We need to be able to tab through it. Also using semantic HTML, there's special tags that coders will use to say that this is a heading, this is a sidebar, this is navigation, this is the body content. And then focus indicators. That is extremely important because they need, as they're tabbing through the website, they need to see where they are on the page. So it will put a little outline around the section that you're on. Skip links. There's a lot of things we can do for that. Auditories. Some folks can't hear, and if you have audio content or video content with sound, we need to give them a similar experience. So a simple solution to that is to transcribe audio and video with captions. There's even other things to consider like cognitive, neurological, speech disabilities, ADHD, autism, and the like. By considering those, you can consider those things by eliminating fast-moving content, making your content easier to understand. And there's even tools like we have linked below where a little widget comes up and they can pick whatever their concern is, and it can actually intelligently like display your site with less distractions. So that's kind of an interesting tool that you can use. Moving on to privacy. 2 privacy laws, I guess, to consider: the GDPR, that's a general data protection regulation in the European Union. So if you're a small local company and you're only catering to local folks, maybe you don't have to worry so much about this, but if you are targeting the whole world, then you need to. If you're collecting data from anyone in the European Union, you need to consider these laws. Same thing in California is the Consumer Privacy Act. Also, there are more detailed laws on what you can and can't do with people's data. More info at both of these links if you need to learn more about that. But some simple things you can do to make your site more private and to comply with some of these laws. I'm not going to say this is going to 100% address everything in those laws, but these are things that I think every website should have just for everyone's privacy and safety. So first of all, privacy page setup. In WordPress, if you go to settings, privacy, you can create new or use a page that you already have with the privacy policy content. WordPress has a privacy template like generator. If you pick create new, it will actually generate a privacy page for you. And then you can just go in and update the text to make it more applicable to you in your website. If you have more stringent needs to have a very customized privacy policy page, maybe you are tracking a number of things or collecting more sensitive data, I'd recommend a tool like this, getterms.io. This tool will ask you a lot of questions and generate a very custom privacy policy page. It can also do cookie notices and a host of other things. Once you've created that privacy policy page, add it to your menu, usually in the footer. It's not really something that has to be at the top or front and center, but I'd put it in the footer. And then on every form where you do collect data, you want to have a link to that privacy page. Also, bonus points to have a consent checkbox. So it might say, by submitting this form, you agree to our privacy policy with a link to that page, or you can have an actual consent checkbox that says that they consent to you accepting their personal information. And then every form plugin or most good form plugins has a data retention setting. So you can, again, if you're in California or European Union or serve users in those areas, learn more about data retention settings. Just know it's usually in the form plugin settings. Lastly, for a cookie consent banner, most websites do have cookies, even if you're not specifically asking for something, even just leaving the site and coming back and it remembering anything about you, it probably has a cookie. So if you're worried about that, you can use this plugin. There's lots of them out there, but this is just one that we've used before. It's called Cookie Notice. So there's a link there. And the cookie or what I'm talking about is the little pop-up, or it might be a banner at the bottom. You've probably all seen them that says, hey, by using this site, we might be tracking your activity, and that you consent to it. There's also a link at the bottom on our blog on how to write and add a privacy policy page to your website. Moving on to website maintenance. So when you build a WordPress website, keep in mind, it's not a static website. It's going to change whether you touch it or not, because WordPress is open source. So they're making updates to the WordPress core constantly. And then any plugins that you use are built by developers all over the world, and they're constantly pushing updates. So one, we need to keep the website updated. We need to keep the core and all of the plugins updated so that we get all of the security features, the security updates, but also the new features that the plugin is offering. If you don't update a WordPress website for a year and then you try to update, it's most likely going to break because so many things have changed. You've missed all of the incremental things. If you keep it updated at least monthly, typically we don't have too many issues unless there's a huge revamp of a plugin. Like a couple years ago, WooCommerce had a major update, broke a lot of sites. So keep that in mind. Even if you're diligent about updating the site, it can still break. So we always want to update on a staging environment. So hopefully if you have a decent hosting platform, you can copy your site down with one click to a staging environment. Then you can update the plugins. Ideally, you update them one at a time and check it so that if something breaks, you're more likely to be able to identify which plugin broke it. And then if everything looks good, then you can push it to live. WordPress core does have, on your website, you have the option of doing the auto updates for WordPress core. Unless your site has some really complicated things and tons of plugins, it's usually safe to let WordPress do its thing. Now, if WordPress has a major update, for instance, when it goes, it typically updates like there's intervals like 4.1, 4.2, 4.23, whatever. When it goes from when a whole number, if it's going from 4 to 5, that's usually a significant change. So when you see that's coming up, it's usually all over the blogs and things. Then I would probably do it manually in a staging environment. But so I would usually set that to auto. And I missed this point here. Some hosting providers have smart plugin updates. So it can do daily, weekly, whatever you set it to, updates, but it does it intelligently. So it, for instance, one of the tools that we use, it takes snapshots of 20 pages on the site. Then it pulls the site into a temporary environment, does all the plugin updates, and then it takes another 20 snapshots of the site. And if there's no changes, it assumes nothing broke, and then it pushes it to live. That's super handy to keep your site updated. So if you use WP Engine, Pantheon might have it. If you use any of the bigger providers, they might have that, and it might be worth the money to pay them for that. If you don't have that option, I would update plugins at least quarterly to not have major issues. Monthly is even better, quarterly at the minimum. And then also keep in mind that the server needs updates. So the server is running the, let's see, the backend code of a WordPress website is built in PHP, and MySQL is the database. So PHP has updates too. I think right now it's at like 8.3. So if you're, say you're running on like GoDaddy or one of the economy plans, you might still be that server or plan might still be running PHP 5.6, which was sunsetted a long time ago. That opens your site up to get hacked as well, because the server itself doesn't have all the security updates. So there's the website, and then there's the server that it lives on. So consider PHP version and MySQL version as well. Moving on. Oh, and that's it. So resources to learn more. Our blog has hundreds of articles about web design and digital marketing. So check it out. We also have a YouTube channel where we go into more detail and some fun stuff on there too. There's our podcast. We typically publish a new podcast monthly, and then we have these monthly trainings. So we try to alternate. Every other month is typically something SEO or digital marketing related, and then the other alternating months are more development related. So this one was WordPress. Next one will probably be WooCommerce. We're going to have a HubSpot training probably in November. So keep that in mind. And lastly, thank you so much for your time and attention. I hope you got something out of this. If you enjoyed this and got something of value, I would so appreciate if you left us a review on Google or Facebook and let the world know that you had a good experience with this training. So thank you so much, everyone. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.